Well, now we've got Mr. Pascal Udibo, who is the country director for Jeff and O'Brien, as well as Honorable Dayo Bush Alebioshu, who was a former member of the House of Reps of the ruling party. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Well, speaking about setting an agenda for the National Assembly, we know that the Senate President has said time and again, maybe for those who get to listen, that, look, this Senate, at least for him, Senate will not be a rubber stamp for the executive. And I think the House of Reps themselves have also, the leadership has maintained the same stance. But in terms of setting the agenda for the National Assembly, where we know that Nigerians usually look up to their actions, there's so many things that we expect them to have done. Mr. Udibo, for you, how do you think they've fared so far? Do you think that they are on the right course, in touch with the aspirations of Nigerians concerning their office?
Thank you. No, I think the point here really is that the taste of the food is in the eating, they will always say. There's a lot of mantra, a lot of agitations and vituperations that are quite politically correct. In other words, you just say these things so that it will be said that, we said it.
You think they don't mean it?
No, not that they don't mean it. Down the line, it will be clear. If you say you're not pregnant, the first month, second month, third month, it will be clear to everybody that you're pregnant. So the point I'm making here is that I'm not particularly carried away by polemics. I'm not carried away by I'm looking at a much more detailed thing. Let me drill down a little bit what I'm trying to say. Whether you're the executive or you are the legislature, you must have a why. Why are you? What is raising the etre? It is this raising the etre that triggers your vision. And it is this vision that produces your how and the what. So what people will be seeing will be a function of an internal visceral desire. If not, you will be doing what I call firefighting. If Boko Haram is in the southwest, you move all your police to southwest. If they are in the northwest, you move all of them to the northwest. Very reactionary activities. They don't impress any decent thinking people. So I am hopeful that the National Assembly will do the needful. The nation is at a crossroad. And I've always said this, Chamberlain, that years down the line, this man will be brought to question, not particularly by any law court or by generations. You were a senator, you were a member of House of Representatives in this season. What did you do? Hopefully, those will put people under pressure to do the needful now. Because what I just see, if I looked at the legislative, that's what is called legislative agenda.
Yeah.
What you see is their operational arrangements. What comes to us, they're not looking at things that has to do with why they came to the place.
Well, you were in the House. I'm just wondering if the last bit of what he said fit with you. Do you have that sense of having looked back and said, well, while I was there, okay, the benefit of hindsight. But before that, from what you've seen about this current assembly, the ninth assembly, you think that in terms of the aspirations that Nigerians have, expectations of the National Assembly concerning the laws we need passed so we can be better, are they on the same page with Nigerians, you think?
I would want to say that by saying that it's important to understand that every administration has a defining crisis in governance. To a certain extent, you may see them being deploying reactionary a reactionary attitude because you see that certain things keep thrown off. If you sit down and you look at what's going on, you have to consider issues of security, amongst other things. I have always said that for you to saddle responsibility upon somebody, the person must be able to live up to handling that responsibility. How do I mean? Quality of representation, I will continue to say. You mentioned something now that they would have to...
generations who hold them
you
accountable.
know, would say, it depends. If your intention is to go to serve, then you would have that hanging on your neck. But if you're not bothered about that, it doesn't matter.
The why.
You know, it doesn't matter. However, with what's going on, it's always the way you look at. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will begin to change. When you look at the different colors of the rainbow, because you look at it as one, it makes sense to you. But when you look at these colors individually, sometimes it's like color riot. Now, how do I mean? We're dealing with we're dealing with issues where in the past people have had issues with the National Assembly. We're dealing with issues where they have said, "Oh, if the National Assembly leadership had been had worked well with the executive arm, things would have gotten better." Well, to a certain extent, it's important, like I said about the rainbow, for them to work together to achieve a common goal for Nigeria. A good government is made up of good public servants. A good society is made up of its people. A good country is made up of the best of both for you to achieve whatever goals you want to achieve. It's still an early start. Let's see what goes on. What are the things that will be passed to the National Assembly from the executive arm?
Yeah, sorry, Timothy. You talked about the quality of representation.
Correct.
Why did you raise that now? You have questions on your mind about...
It has always been an issue with every Nigerian out there. When you chair a committee, like I've said in the past, and you have no understanding of, okay, who chairs the committee on security, for example? What is your experience? How did the policy come to be? Were you able to assemble critical thinkers, or did you just assemble opinion holders and critics just to help you put stuff together?
But sorry to jump in. Before you get to who the person chairing the committee, which would have
That's
been
just
after,
an example.
but whoever is appointed,
Correct.
that's where the problem starts. Are they usually put in those committees to chair them based on merit in terms of their capacity?
Yes.
To be honest with you, in some cases, one or two cases, yes. In a few cases, yes. In a lot of cases, you're trying to resolve political issues. You're trying to resolve, okay, this person supported me in my bid to become this. So
which puts a question on what he said about...
This happens across the world,
which puts a question on what he said about legislative agenda. So
Right.
there is it's more of a political agenda than a legislative agenda.
I wouldn't want to say that it's more of a political... there's a strong influence of the political agenda. For you to have that legislative agenda, it means you have to forget about party issues of partisanship, where the kind of our practice of democracy is completely different here in this part of the world. What you are doing is, okay, it's APC's turn, PDP brings them down. When it's PDP's turn, ANC brings them down. When it's another, so hardly do you find everybody coming together to move issues concerning the nation forward.
That's our stark reality, isn't it?
Yes, and you know, as a nation, we are supposed to be on a trajectory of growth. If somebody is 3 years, and you see the person next time is 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, and you see the physiology and physiognomy of that individual, you know, as we are changed, you know. But you know, if you want to ask yourself, really, when you see the conversations and discussions that go on in the National Assembly, you want to take a plane back in time. What will play up in your mind? My thinking here is that that's what I started with. That's the sense of why, you know, and he's alluding to it. You cannot play politics, and you're given the mantle to govern. And while you are with the mantle, you are still playing politics. it means clearly that you don't understand why you are there. Politics is a means to governance. All those political things we did about 4 months ago was a means to an end. That is why it baffles me that after so many months, I look at governors. Some governors have not brought out their ministers. Even in the federal government, there is still this back and forth. What is it? What is it? Are you doing political balancing, or what exactly are you doing that February, March, April, May, June, July, heading to August, and there is a National Assembly? This happened before. I will be thinking that yes, the Constitution, I'm not a lawyer, but the Constitution says that the president must rule and lead by ministers, right? But never gave a time frame within which the president should produce the ministers. I would have thought that a very sound and robust National Assembly would say, not again. By now. That's how laws are done. Because you will never finish producing laws. The making of laws has never an end. You will have said by now, give a 30, 60 days act of parliament and back up. That's how societies grow.
Now that you bring up the issue of a ministerial list, for example, we're counting down to the long break for lawmakers. And, there's been a lot of talk about, will they defer the break? Will they go on the break? Will we wait for months before we see the eventual confirmation of this ministerial list? So the question, Mr. Lebioshu, you were part of the National Assembly, House of Representatives. In the light of what we're seeing now, the delay, the wait, the possibility of going on a break, how do you think the National Assembly should handle this? If it comes, for example, today, for example, how do you think the National Assembly should go about it? Defer the break or go on it?
It's a national assignment. It's something they have to, a matter of urgent public importance. They have to see it. Forget about the break or no break. The moment the president, the executive arm forwards it to the National Assembly, they have to deliberate on it. When you ask what much can the National Assembly do about that, we have to look at how ministers are nominated in this climb. It's usually through, they're usually done, political nominations. How do I mean? Sometimes it doesn't matter what parties at the state level. You have the executive, you have, what do they call the FEC, Federal Executive Council.
Yeah.
It does not know party lines. It's basically and strictly on issues of national importance or national issues, whether you are an APP governor, APC governor, PDP governor, you all sit together to deliberate. And he said something. He said, usually it's expected that the governor of that state nominates somebody from within that state. Now, if you look at what has happened leading to the emergence of a lot of governors, regardless of party lines, there were issues with all parties going into elections. There are political issues, infighting and all that. So you're having issues with even governors presenting names to the executive.
Should that, because from what he's saying, having seen what happened previously, assuming without conceding that they had to do all of that, but if it took that much time, and then now the list is still not here. Don't forget, I think it was last week or thereabout, the Senate president of the Senate, while they were having that deliberation on the floor of the House, somebody raised a motion saying, look, we're about to go on recess. What's going to happen to this list? And he says, well, don't worry, it will come. It may even come, it could come that week. That didn't happen. It means that they are equally anticipating the list. So from what he's saying, shouldn't they, if they have said we're not going to be rubber stamped, at this time say, well, look, there seems to be a lacuna in the law in terms of the time frame that the president can submit the list. Isn't that what the National Assembly should have taken upon themselves and say, look, in order for us to deliver as ruling party, this needs to come in so we can move?
You see, with that, the way the law works is, I mean, lawmaking works is very, very, very funny, very... there's a difference between making laws, bills, and amending the Constitution. Now, you have to look at because of political rascality, do you want the national, regardless of what party is in control, do you want some guys coming together and say, you know what, we've seen cases where in some state assemblies where out of 24 members, you will see 6 people coming together to elect a speaker, to remove a government. We've seen all sorts of things here in this climb. Do you want that? So in order to say...
Are they the same thing with this one?
Hold on, that's where I'm getting to now. For you to say, oh, Mr. President or the executive arm must come up with the list of so, you'd find out that there'll be something blocking it, and then it has to be provided for in the Constitution, or that has to be done at the constitutional review level. So you just don't come up. There's some laws you can throw up as bills and deliberate upon, and some you have to go back. And like you said, because it hasn't been stated there. But until you get or you discuss directly with the executive arm before we actually know what exactly is going on. Right now, we can only try to get into the minds without knowing what the mindset is to say, what exactly is causing this delay?
There's something that...
I'm sorry, I mean, we've seen a lot of things happen. I remember while I was in the House, we had moved, just quickly touch on that for you to have a bigger picture. We'd done something in the House where we were proposing to amend that part of the Constitution which allows the local government councils get their funds
directly from the...
Yes, directly. We also moved for independent candidature. Guess what? It was the same local governments who came and said, please leave it the way it is. We're happy getting it from the state executives. So you find out that a lot is going on.
No, but you know, that is a case of the hand of Esau and the voice of Jacob. Yeah. These are guys that are nominated by the governors, and you know, the governor will have called him in the night. If you are part of this agenda, tomorrow you are out. So you know, there's a lot of political correctness, which is what, and that's what I'm talking about. There's nothing wrong with politics. There is absolutely nothing wrong. Politics is about administration. So the point I'm making here is that the politicians must know that this is a call. The way a pastor goes to church and a imam goes to mosque, the way John Momo comes here and makes sure that this place works, the way Dr. C runs AIT, and the way I go to my office and run, that's the way they should take this work.
But you see,
it's a ministry.
The difference, so to speak, thank you, ministry, but the difference in each of these individuals that you have mentioned, you in your office, there is a direction, you know, that your organization is going. There is a direction that an institution is going. So the headship is looking in that direction, and there's always a 10-year plan, 20-year plan, 30-year plan, and all of that. So we've had rolling plans over the years. Hardly are we ever able to follow through. I remember in the 80s, 90s, we were talking about housing for all by the year 2000, then it moved to 2010, and here we are, 2019. It's far from that. So
you don't have a house still?
I'm wondering, you talked about legislative agenda. Agenda for what? You know, now, it's for nation building.
Okay, you've taken it to break. So who has to come back and get you to respond to his question in a moment. Stay with us. Okay, welcome back. Well, Ayo's going to go again.
Yeah, I want to... there's something Mr. Odibo said the other time, you know, legislative agenda, but to what end? What's the vision? What's the long-term plan? Because that, I think, is usually the issue. One administration comes with an agenda, ends with that agenda, and then another one comes with a totally different agenda. So we just seem to be doing things piecemeal as opposed to long-term thing.
You know, I have two things to say, and I hope I'll be able to link them together. Both the executive and the National Assembly should have legislative agenda. Both of them. Then they should be able to harmonize it. All over the world, governments come to power to bring change. That's why you see them mount it. How far that is internally ingrained is a different matter, and it will be seen down the line. By the way, when APC was seeking our votes to change PDP. By the way, I'm not a partisan politician. You know, one of the things they said was to restructure. Your footnotes are there. Their documentations are there. It took pressure. It took pressure from civil society and people to say, bros, begin to think about this thing you promised us now, right? Because every government wants to bring change, and change can only be done legally. So you need to now get, that's why your an attorney general must be a reform-driven individual. He is the one that anchors and captures the political agenda into some kind of legislative agenda that is pushed to the National Assembly. Because the National Assembly also is supposed to be able to be a gauge and to ensure that nobody runs riot or gets riotous because of the executive power. Power, you know, they say corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It is the National Assembly's job to also have an agenda that will say, you know what, while we are here, we will have to make sure that nobody goes off the ban. So both of them is for the people.
Okay.
Anytime your agenda is not for the people, you have missed the mark. So
All right, let's wind down with this. This is something you've alluded to some time. Do we, over the years up until now, if you give us an assessment, do you think that and how well have we done in getting leaders or those who are just there just to manage quote-unquote power?
A leader is somebody where 10, 20, 30 years after he's gone, you still have people talking about them. A leader is not that person who has managed power and within 4 years of having left office or having passed on, people don't even remember who he is. When you look at what's going on in Nigeria or in this time, you will discover that they say sometimes it's better to, you're stuck with making, taking a decision, deciding between bad choices than having no choice at all. You come up with an agenda that this is where you're going, and suddenly you find out that you have to be reactionary because the plane has not even allowed you. Institutions are not built. I listen sometimes, they say, oh, the IG has said, has instructed, has ordered this. And I think, why the IG? It's just important. I mean, you just need to say, the police has instructed this. Now, you find out it was Bakassi boys, it was Niger Delta, it was OPC, now it was Boko Haram. Now we're not talking Boko Haram, we're talking headsmen. It makes me believe that there are certain people actually somewhere making sure that you don't even achieve that agenda. You know,
yeah,
so you end up having no choice but to be reactionary sometimes.
All right, we need to go, but we couldn't speak about this. Maybe next time we will. In terms of democracy, how have we approached democracy? Where that's a system of governance now. So if it's giving us the kind of results we want, not that we're asking for anything else. Into this. But gentlemen, we need to thank you for coming on. Pascal Udigbo, Country Director, Jeff O'Brien, and Honorable Daibu Shalibioshi, former member of the House of Reps from the ruling party. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Well, that is the show today. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
I'm Kayode Kikelu.
I am Akinde.
Well, Gun Yusuf, have a lovely week ahead.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this program are those of the maker and do not reflect the views, opinions, and endorsement of Channels Television.